A century ago, World War I was raging, and the British were desperately trying to break the stalemate with the Germans. Both sides were stuck in trenches, and neither could advance. So Britain hatched a plan. Why not combine the armor of a warship with the maneuverability of a horse? And so the first tank was born. It was called the Landship, and it looked like this. On September 15, 1916, 8 of these lumbering metal boxes rumbled through the streets of London, on their way to the front lines. They were driven by crews who had no idea how to operate them, much less fight in them. But they were desperate times, so they gave it a shot. On September 19, 1916, at the Battle of the Somme, these 8 tanks rumbled into action against the Germans. 4 of them broke down almost immediately, but the other 4 made it all the way to the German lines before being stopped by artillery fire. One of them even managed to get close enough for its crew to start shooting their rifles at the stunned Germans. The tanks couldn't elevate, so they just kept firing at the enemy over the top of their guns. The effect was terrifying. These mechanical monsters were unlike anything the Germans had ever seen before. Some of the German soldiers later reported seeing these tanks as being akin to an armored train on tracks, while others thought they were being attacked by armored motor cars. Either way, the Germans were stunned, and the tanks made it all the way to the front lines before breaking down. By the end of the day, the British had advanced around 4 miles and taken over 300 prisoners. For the first time in 4 years, the British had advanced further than 100 yards in a single day. The Germans were shocked and confused, and the British were ecstatic. This was the beginning of the end for World War I. Fast forward to World War II, and tanks were a major part of every army. There were huge advances in armor plating and firepower, but there wasn't much change in the overall design. However, there was one notable exception: Germany's Tiger tank. The Tiger was a behemoth, armed with an 88mm cannon that could penetrate over 200mm of armor. Only about 500 were ever built, and they were so expensive. They had their own special crew to operate and maintain them. But they were so fearsome that the Allies didn't know what to do with them. In fact, the Allies didn't even know they existed until they started showing up on the battlefield in 1942. The Allies would soon learn to fear the Tiger as much as the German soldiers did, and the war would never be the same. The Cold War saw the rise of some truly innovative tanks. The British were at it again with the introduction of the hovercraft tank, which could operate on land or water without changing tanks. The Russians had the T-55, a cheap and easy-to-produce tank that would form the backbone of their forces. And the Americans had the M60, a behemoth armed with a 105mm gun that was designed to ford bodies of water twice as tall as the tank itself. Today's tanks are marvels of engineering. Abrams is widely considered to be the best tank in the world, and it's been exported to over 10 countries. It's reliable, accurate, and deadly day or night. But it's also expensive and heavy, which means that it's not always the best choice for certain situations. That's why some militaries are turning to lighter, cheaper alternatives like the Mobile Protected Firepower System, which uses a robotic vehicle to deliver big guns to the front lines without risking the lives of valuable soldiers. The future of tanks is uncertain. Some experts believe that drones will eventually replace them on the battlefield, while others argue that tanks will continue to evolve and remain relevant. What do you think? Will tanks still be used in warfare in the future? Let us know your thoughts. Now check out this video on the deadliest tank in the world, or watch this video instead.